The latest instalment of the East Anglian derby is over. The unbeaten streak for Norwich City continues. It's 14 years now, 15 years come the next time we play Ipswich Town. I've spoken to Benjamin Bloom more than my own family this week, so I thought I would continue such trend. Now that the dust has settled a little bit, mate, how are you feeling?
Well, the first thing I want to ask you is, I think we spoke on Thursday. Is my beard 40% more grey having been to this football match? Oh,
yeah,
mate,
I think it is.
I've forgotten. I was just saying to you before we started, the 30 minutes before the game is just my heart is just popping out of my stomach. Look, it was a fabulous occasion, wasn't it? I've seen some sort of snide comments. Yeah, well, we'll talk about snide comments and people interpreting the games to suit whatever their narrative is. But I thought it was a great occasion. If you were a neutral, just sat there on a Saturday afternoon watching it, I bet you damn well enjoyed it. But I'm sure we can both say neither you and I were very much enjoying it at various points in the afternoon yesterday.
Absolutely. I mean, we spoke before the game and we knew the thought of the kind of general fan base. Ipswich Town heavy favourites to win this. And I must say, Ben, after the opening kind of 20 minutes, I thought, this could get really messy for us. Broadhead looked brilliant. McCallum came in for the injured Yanulis and just couldn't deal with Burns down that left-hand or right-hand side for Burns. And I was thinking, we've got problems here. But I was very civilized. I was sat at home watching it with my mum, and Broadhead missed that first chance, and I went, they'll come and regret that. Did you have the same opinion in the ground? Did you just have that sinking feeling?
You did. Yeah, you did, because you've got to remember that Norwich are people not get annoyed with me saying Norwich are a year 2 parachute club with some really damn good players. This is now. I saw someone fairly high up in Ipswich yesterday, and they said, I think some people are expecting this to be like the Exeter game last season, where it was the procession and the coach was welcome. Then they were 5-0 up after 25 minutes. Norwich are absolutely not Exeter City. They have some damn good players in there, but that was the game, Jack, wasn't it? And if you watch on my vlog, if I'm allowed to advertise that, when the third chance got missed, because Broadhead had the one with the one you pointing out where he dribbles through, brilliant on the dribble. He's got to score, as and he drags it round the post. The right-footed one, he normally scores those, Jack. Burns slashes one wide, and I said
that was the toughest of the three, the Burns one. I think
I agree.
Forgiven to miss that one.
I agree. But then look at the goal he scores in the second half. But I said on my vlog then, Ipswich will pay for this. You cannot, miss those. This is the Championship. It's not League One. You can't make tons and tons of chances and miss them all. And we did kind of know at that point that might end up being the story. And you got to play the penalty boxes. And Norwich played the penalty boxes in the big moments better than Ipswich did yesterday.
Absolutely. I mean, we spoke quite a bit about your game against Watford, and you managed that game really well against the Watford team who are on the up, and that kind of concerned me. But we did say, didn't we? You're not completely solid at the back. There are, areas that we can get at. Broadhead scores the opener, and you're thinking, right, Norwich have to really dig in here. And I would have definitely gone in 1-0 down and been completely happy with that. And up pops Jonny Rowe. Can't deal with the first cross, can't deal with the second ball, third time lucky. You must have been so disappointed with the manner in which you conceded that opener.
Norwich fans love VAR, don't they? I think we all know what VAR would have done with Jonny Rowe's left ankle.
Mate, just before that, we talk about the goal. I think there would have been about 3 or 4 red cards. The ref was so lenient, and I'm not mad with that.
Jack, I'm actually pleased with it, because if the ref books Ashley Barnes for taking out Cladke in minute 8, he books Sam Morsey in minute 25, and Sam Morsey doesn't play against Leeds and Leicester. So I will take the refereeing performance. Look, I don't want anyone in the comments to say Ipswich fan moaning about the ref. Ipswich did not win yesterday because they did not take their chances and did not defend crosses into their box yesterday. It's sometimes very weak, isn't it? You externalize the locus of control and blame something that's nothing to do with you. I'm not going to do that. But we know what VAR would have done with the 2 Norwich goals yesterday, don't we? They'd have slowed it down and found some increment of Ashley Barnes or Jonny Rowe that was offside. What I'll say that's most annoying, the first cross in by McCallum is a brilliant cross. If you concede from that, you say, okay, fair play, it's a moment of quality. Yeah, VAR would have found Rowe's ankle offside or whatever. It is what it is. It's annoying because it's just a high. Is it who puts it in? Is it the right? Stacey?
Yeah.
It's just he just tries to hang it up, doesn't it? Jonny Rowe had 4 touches in Ipswich's box yesterday and just turned up in the big moments, didn't he? And Chris Sutton was right. I watched back the comments. Brilliant, brilliant sort of instinctive finish. And he's just a big, a big game player, and he turned up in the big moments, didn't he? Yeah, just. But you pay if you don't score your chances and you don't defend high crosses to the back post.
Definitely go and watch everyone watching Ben's vlog, because it's always fun to see what it's like in the kind of opposition end. And it was amazing how kind of quiet it had fallen at that point. But going into half time, it's 1-1. You've bossed the majority of that first half. You've had the chances. You must still be confident coming into the second half that things will go your way. And then up pops Jonny Rowe again. I've watched it back a few times. I think I'd be disappointed with the goalkeeping if I'm an Ipswich fan. I mean, it's basically straight at him. He could have just stuck a foot at it or something. But again, it's a cross that's not fully dealt with. Rowe's got that quality to deliver. And that is the moment that changes the game, because Norwich have a lead to sit on. And I think that's probably, there's not a huge amount of the game left. That's probably a situation we wouldn't have minded to just sit a little bit deeper rather than chasing the game. At that point, how are you feeling?
Yeah, it's just really poor, isn't it? It's really poor. And, to summarise the first half, and again, I'm speaking objectively here, so don't take offence to this, Norwich fans. Norwich was sat in a tight, compact 4-3-3 behind the ball, putting long throws and crosses into Ipswich box as and when they could. And that's a very honest assessment of the tactical setup. And Ipswich were trying to play through and get as many players forward as they could. That was the pattern of the game. So straight after halftime, and look, I love George Hurst. George Hurst scored a vital goal in, when someone scores that goal. I think Simeon Jackson scored one for you in a promotion that they're permanently lionised forever. But it's just horrifically bad mark, and he turns his back on. Is it Nunes who sends the long throw in? Yeah. So he sends it, and it's probably Big Duffy who's gone up to the near post. And he just turns his back, and it's just horrible defending. I'll give Pladke a pass on the basis that Rowe hits it nice and early, nice and low. Again, Norwich fans love VAR from being in the Premier League. VAR's probably looking at Ashley Barnes as being in Pladke's line of sight. But I'll repeat, in case any Norwich fans get me wrong here, Ipswich missed a load of chances in the first half. That's why they didn't win the game. But yeah, Rowe turns up, and that really then... that changes everything. And I said on my vlog, Jag, I thought with the emotions and the occasion, Ipswich needed a 2-goal lead to win the game. And not only did they never get that, to be behind. I mean, we've been great when we've been behind this season. We've come back so many times. But, that was a killer blow, wasn't it? It was perfect. If you're Norwich, and at halftime, I bet they said, keep it tight, try and nick a goal. And they did it, minute 48 or something?
It was soon after, wasn't it? Burns then gets the equaliser, 60 minutes on the clock. And I mean, it was such a roller coaster of emotions. I'm going into the game thinking we're going to lose. 1-0 down. I'm thinking, right, time to hide behind the sofa. This is about to turn. And then we go ahead, and I'm thinking, oh my God, we've got a chance here. Like, it was a mental state I hadn't really prepared for. And then Burns scores, Ben. And, again, I'm thinking, this, we've still got half an hour to sit tight here. This isn't going to happen. And, but barring that gun save from Broadhead late on, and I'm still confused. Hutchinson didn't kind of nick it in on the rebound and kind of took it away from the goal instead.
I thought the same, Jack, but I looked back. It's a horrible angle, and there's probably a block on. So my first instinct was was that. But yeah, possibly give him a pass. But sorry, continue.
But I'm not going to say I'm disappointed with Ipswich because I'm delighted we picked up a point. But I thought you may have brought the game to us a little bit more than you did. Did you have the same thoughts?
Ipswich have blown up after they've let's accentuate the positive. Ipswich have blown teams away in the first half of home games this season, and then there's been a slight drop off. And look, as a newly year one promoted side, there's Hutchinson on loan to bring in who maybe is of an equivalent level, but there's no one then. The first team is on the pitch. Is there an equivalent for Hurst to bring on? No. Is there? Is Taylor may turn out to be a upgrade on Luongo, but do you know what I mean? There's not the level on the bench that's the same as in the first team. So we've seen that a fair few times. And let's be honest, if they're clinical in the first half, which I'll keep going back to, then they could have got 2 goals up. But that's not abnormal for Ipswich this season, Jack, where they've just tailed off. And that's why games where we thought their 3-1 games have ended up being 3-2 or closer, or 2-2 draws like yesterday. But yeah, and then you get to the point where everyone's so terrified of losing. And oh my God, that 96th minute free kick you got.
I know.
You're just...
the McLean shot from the rebound as well. I don't know what it looked like where you were sitting, but on the telly it looked mightily close. Like the replay showed it was about.
I'm right with the hard cam, so I would have had exactly that angle. Yeah.
It was a moment. Yeah, it was a silly foul as well. I think that led up to it, wasn't it? But you're walking out of Portman Road, but was it a feeling of disappointment? Was that what you were kind of feeling at the time?
So look, Jack, this is where we need to split the conversation between objectively looking at the game and what our narrative as a football supporter is. And let's be honest, and don't have a pop at me and Jack, because a lot of people tell me and Jack what their opinion is. So we don't ask them to, but they bombard us and tell us what their opinion is. So what you get to analyze the game, nobody won. It was a draw. Norwich didn't beat Ipswich. Ipswich didn't beat Norwich. You can look at the data and say possession-wise, chance-wise, Ipswich probably should have won. They didn't. It was a draw. Nobody won. We need to be very, very clear about this when people are deciding after the game who won this game that nobody won based on factors that make them feel better about life. But coming out of the game, I was disappointed, and this is where we start to get into our individual narrative of analysing games that happened over a decade ago and then being part of the conversation. What you're going to get is, we're talking about Chris Finch throwing something over a building after a quiz that he's not won to try and decide that he's won it. So you're going to get Norwich fans who are going to play on the fact that Ipswich still haven't beaten them. Fine. If that makes you feel better about life on your Sunday, who am I to take that away from you?
And it really does. It really does.
That's fine. It is what it is. Then you're going to get Ipswich fans who are going to talk about the tables have turned and Norwich was set up like the Mick McCarthy team and Ipswich were set up like the Daniel Farker team, and one was doing the attacking and one was kind of doing the away. Fine, whatever. Nobody won the game. It was a draw. So you're going to get all of these, back and forth. So Ipswich bottled it, blah, blah, blah. Oh, well, look at Norwich now. Carrow Road is falling down. It was a draw, lads. Nobody won. And there's been 6 draws in the last 9. Now, that is the overwhelming result. Yes, Ipswich haven't beaten Norwich for 14 years, but overwhelmingly, these games are very even. And I reiterate, nobody won yesterday.
I must say, when I saw the scenes from, the greeting of the team bus, I think the overwhelming opinion, and look, it's always so petty, isn't it, leading into a derby? You've got Ipswich fans snipe it. So you're never going to have a balanced conversation. But, I looked at that and saw a team that is fully behind their club. They're enjoying, the journey that they're on. This was a big game. And, the argument of it's your cup final. Like, we know it's not that, but it's still a huge game. And I suspect if we were in the same position as you are, flying at the top of a division after, you know, promotion from the tier below last season, like we would be in the same place. And I thought, you know, it just made the occasion even bigger. I thought it was a nice touch from your fans to kind of get the players up for what was the first derby in such a long time.
Yeah, and there's been plenty of derbies where, you know, there's been a few empty seats in there. It's not been terribly noisy inside the ground. All I've been able to hear, because Portman Road's weird acoustically. The sound is dominated by where you're sat, and I'm kind of looking opposite of the away fans, so you get a bit of a blast. Fortunately, they've moved the Ipswich singing section into that same stand, so I've got stereo chants from both sides, which is quite nice now. But yeah, it did feel very different. It felt, and I said to you, the kind of equivalence of we've been going in with a puncher's chance in an FA Cup tie against a team with, frankly, better players, you know, than us, and it felt very different, which is nice. And ultimately, I'll go back. No 1-1. It was a draw, and yeah, the pettiness is what it is with the cup final and all of that. But I think, you know, both sets of fans do what they feel is the right thing to big up their. I think you marched to the stadium before.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Derby
game. I think
you
know the fans giving you stick would have been doing the same thing 5 years ago. Yeah. So it's
that's tit for tat, Jack, and we don't need to pay that too much credence, really.
What did you make of Norwich then? Seeing them in the person. I don't know how much you've watched of us this season. You're obviously across the division as a whole. Have you, you know, from the sides that have come to Portman Road and most of them have lost? I think it's only Leeds that have picked up a result, isn't it, of some form? We must have done something right.
I thought they were good. I mean, they played the cards they were dealt, and the cards they were dealt involved Ipswich missing a load of chances at 0-0. You can't. You have to treat the world as it is. That's what happened. I think we're going to see more teams set up like that, nice and compact. And so essentially, I know the manager's not covered himself in glory. He got it right. He could have lost the game with those exact tactics if Broadhead, gives Ipswich the lead and they can get themselves in front. I think we've all said it. You miss Sargent, don't you? That team looks different with a quality championship. I know maybe at Premier League level he didn't, but then who did at Norwich have kind of been brilliant at championship level and not at Premier League level. And I think we've said it. I don't want to overstate it, that you've got a club that's overperforming probably in Ipswich and one that's underperforming in Norwich. And if the derby squeeze that a bit together, they're not. You can't sit here and say that all the Ipswich players from League One are better than all the Norwich players, are better than Sarah and Rowe and Barnes, who's played in the Premier League, and Duffy and McLean, who's super experienced. Gunn was a 10 million quid goalkeeper once. So, I'm not surprised that good players sort of showed up. What was your take?
First of all, I really for the first, because a lot of the derbies in recent years have been quite stale, haven't they? Particularly at Portman Road. So I've enjoyed watching Ipswich for my sins for the majority of this season. I think Morty's superb, and that dynamism up front is really exciting. And I thought we actually, barring those chances, held you quite well. It was one of our better performances of the season. I thought Sarah was absolutely superb. McLean's
they took it in turns, didn't they? Nunes and Sarah go right back, even behind the centre backs. And I am sitting there, and I said to my mate at half time, Jack, sorry, I've interrupted your analysis, no. I said to my mate at half time, they look quite a good side when they go for the playmaker style and play through. But, and this is a huge mark of respect to Ipswich, they chose not to do that because they might well have lost and been more open. But you can see against sides that are perhaps lower down in the table than Ipswich, without me being too smug about where Ipswich are, that'll win games, won't it? I thought McCallum really dealt well. I mean, Chaplin had a poor second half, bless him, didn't he? Down that, trying to link up with Burns. I thought McCallum was excellent in the second half, wasn't he?
His second half, he grew.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a difficult time from first half to be thrown in. Last minute with Nunes' kind of late injury was tough. I thought what probably, and I almost like when Nunes kind of almost becomes a bit of a sweeper and McLean goes forward. McLean dropping into centre back's been a strange one, but actually it's worked quite well. And I guess you don't have too much of an aerial threat going forward, so that wasn't an issue. I think the thing that probably let us down, we're probably a defensive midfielder short, and there were huge gaps at times that you kind of exploited. And Barnes just doesn't have the legs. I think we needed him in that derby setting. It's good to have.
You really needed him yesterday. He's not the captain, is he? But he was certainly the captain on the pitch yesterday, wasn't he? He was, especially Jack, when you're behind the ball. I couldn't hear much from the pitch yesterday, but you could clearly see him pulling Ida and Rowe in, getting. He was completely responsible for the defensive team shape as much as
it was the experience.
He tried to do a hatchet job on Clacky at the start, didn't he?
Well, I was good, and you know what? Good, because you were saying the same about Morsey. You were hoping he'd get stuck in, and I saw that, and I went, "Yeah, good on you, Ashley. Good on you." And it was. I must say I enjoyed the game, and I'm pleased with the result. And if that's me celebrating a draw, then I'm going to continue celebrating all week long. Well, look, next time we speak, we'll probably be ahead of our next game, which is a way off now in April. Put you on the spot. Where do you expect both sides to be come then?
Man, I mean, look, if the hierarchy of the Championship behaves in the way it normally does, and Ipswich are up against 3 year one parachute teams at the top, you might expect Ipswich to be in a slightly less comfortable position than they are now. And I don't know what's going to happen at Norwich, if there's any money to spend in January, whether that's going to be spent with David Wagner, whether Josh Sargent is going to be back, whether there's any sales in January as well. Rowe has really turned up in the biggest way yesterday, and added more sort of gravitas to his reputation. So you would expect the two sides to, in some way, shape or form, how can I fudge this answer and filibuster? In some way, shape or form, to be a little bit closer together, maybe points wise, but where that translates in the league table, I don't know. Look, Ipswich, as much as the derby is massive, God, leads away now, and give me a 2-2 draw in that one, and I'm out of Dodge, without even getting on the bus. So we'll see, but it's been nice to have it back, and honestly, it's almost nice to feel like you've got more than a puncher's chance in this game, and you're actually disappointed with a draw rather than clinging on to for dear life as we have been in some of the other 6 draws in the last 9 derbies.
Absolutely, yeah. It was nice, I think, to really feel something. We've played Preston and Sheffield Wednesday. When you're kind of mid-table and you don't think you're good enough for the playoffs, and you're not bad enough to go down, you're like kind of rocking up to Carrow Road, going like, what's the point of all of this? So that oomph was nice to have.
Yeah.
Look, I've really enjoyed our chats over the past week. Well worth going over to check out Ben's videos from yesterday. The vlog in particular was really good, and I thought the review was fair. Ultimately, Ipswich dominated the game. Norwich nicked something, and we can be smug for the next 4 months or however long it is.
And
thanks so much,
Jack, I'll be hosting the Blue Monday podcast. We're recording on Sunday morning tonight. So if there's any Norwich fans who can control their emotions and want to get involved in the live chat during the Blue Monday show, we'd very much welcome you along to have your say. Obviously, if you're a massive dickhead, please don't worry about it. But balanced Norwich fans. And Jack, it's been great chatting. I know a lot of people think that yours and my chats are some kind of fiction that we make up, and we're like on best behavior or something, but we literally we don't know what we're going to say beforehand. We just have a chat. I have no agenda. You have no agenda. And this is just how it comes out. And, if you want us to yell and scream at each other, then it's probably not going to happen. But I've really enjoyed it too.
I'm sure if Ipswich were to have beaten us yesterday, we would have been slightly more tetchy.
Yeah, right.
Thanks very much, mate. See you later. Bye-bye.
Pleasure.